The very first circular Android Wear watch is back with a vengeance, but is it a worthy successor? I'm Mark Burstein with Techno Buffalo, and this is the new Moto 360. I am an early adopter at heart, so when the first Moto 360 came out, I was pretty rabid to get my hands on one. I missed basically every online order, and I called countless Best Buys, but I finally found one that had them in stock, so I was really excited to get one. And in its infancy, Android Wear didn't really have a whole lot to it, and that kind of became really clear really quickly. But now that it's been given some time to mature, a year later, it is my favorite thing to have on my wrist. The new Moto 360 is definitely an incremental update to the original, but it's enough to make you take a pretty close look. Let's talk about the changes. Let's talk about what stayed the same. The first thing you're going to notice is the addition of lugs to the new watch face, the new body. The lugs allow for much easier quick release band changing, which is now easier than it's ever been. It's a more free hanging strap now too, and it alleviates the issue that many first gen users had with the plastic backs on the back of the face. They were cracking if you were wearing them too tight. That's no longer an issue. The next thing you're going to notice is that the button has moved from the 3 o'clock to the 2 o'clock position on the face, and the button itself is actually a lot clickier. I don't push the button very often, but compared to the last year's one, it's not quite as gushy. It's got a really good bit of travel, and it clicks nice and loud. Nothing has changed in terms of functionality with the button though. The watch face also retains the same dimensions as last year's model, with the exception of being 0.1 millimeters less wide. So thinner on the horizontal spectrum, but not on the thickness spectrum. The processor in the old 360 was just a little single core Texas Instruments OMAP 3 at 1 gigahertz. This new model is sporting a quad-core Snapdragon 400. Yes, quad-core in a watch, and the difference is striking. My old 360 was super laggy already, and the signs of age were really starting to show. The new one is snappy, zippy, quick, and any other words that might mean fast. The device is easily twice as responsive as last year's model. Granted, that's anecdotally. I didn't do any actual tests to see how much faster it is, but in everyday use, you are absolutely going to notice the change in the processor. The major pain point for last year's 360 was the inconsistent battery life, or at the very least, consistently poor battery life. I'm very happy to report that the battery capacity has been upped from 320 to 400 milliamp hours. So between that, a more efficient processor, moderate to high usage, I'm able to get through a full day's usage with about 50% left in the tank, believe it or not. This is actually what is expected. Motorola claims 1.5 full days of use without the ambient display turned on and 1 full day with the ambient display turned on. Granted, it wasn't ever a gigantic pain point for me on last year's model because I didn't use it with ambient mode turned on, but I'm really happy to see that it's something that I no longer have to worry about. And if you were holding off on the first 360 for better battery life, then now is the time to do it. The men's large model, which is what we have for review, measures in maybe at 1.56 inches with a resolution of 360 by 330 for a PPI of 233. The smaller 1.37 inch model is just a little bit more dense in terms of pixels at 263 because of its smaller face housing the almost identical resolution of 360 by 325. The higher PPI screen is totally welcome. I didn't anticipate it making a big difference, and it sort of really doesn't, but it does amount to a more premium feeling device. Then of course there's the ever so polarizing flat tire, which is very much still present. For me, it's really not a big deal. The flat tire allows for a very small bezel and a high screen to bezel ratio. It makes things look silly sometimes, but it's really nothing egregious. It doesn't change the functionality at all, so I don't consider it a deal breaker. If you don't like the flat tire, obviously this isn't the watch for you, but for me, it means that small bezel and that nice big screen, so it really doesn't bother me all that much. Ambient mode is something that I'd considered a luxury until now. I never had it activated on my old model, and even if I did, it still insisted on deciding on when it should be on and when it shouldn't be. The new one, however, I've had ambient mode turned on since I've gotten it, and it still makes it through a full day on the battery while staying on all the time to boot. Plus, the accelerometer is much more accurate. The display always wakes up from ambient mode when it's lifted to my face or even just lifted a little bit. Plus, the wrist flicking gestures work much more reliably than they ever did on last year's model. the price has gone up from the initial MSRP of $250 from last year's to $300 for this year, and that goes all the way up to $430 for any other bells and whistles that you might want, like bands and changing the actual material for the body. Aside from the price, everything else is as it was in the original. We're still looking at 4 gigs of storage, half a gig of RAM, a heart rate monitor, microphone, and it is still IP67 water resistant, which, by the way, does not mean that you can swim with it, as past me would have been very happy to know. As far as looks go, I'm definitely more of a function over form kind of guy, so I like something that's a little more utilitarian, understated, especially when it comes to a watch. You know, I'm not a watch guy. I don't want a really flashy thing. I'm not looking for anything beyond a great watch that tells me a lot of information without having to look at my phone. So the 360 fits right in with that. I'm super happy to wear it on my wrist. Plus, I wanted something circular. That's why I went with the first 360 against, you know, one of the other models that were square that were out last year. If you are looking for something flashier, though, you can always motor maker up something in gold or with a different band if that's something that you are after. In terms of software, Wear 1.3 is finally something that I feel really comfortable recommending to Android users. While some apps are certainly rough around the edges, all the new interactive watch faces really make Wear feel very futuristic to me. The Together watch face can be used to link up another Moto 360 user or Android Wear user, just like the Apple Watch, to send silly little doodles, photos, current transit status. I can use this with my wife, for example. So when I leave for work, my little face on her watch will have a little bike right next to it because I'm biking on my way home. It really feels cool to feel like you have someone, especially your significant other, just sitting right there on your wrist to be reached out to at the touch of a button, or I guess finger touch of a screen. Overall, I'm really happy with the quality of the new Moto 360 and the improvements they've made. I'm not quite sold on the price point though. I bought the first model at full price for $250 when it came out because I really wanted to be one of the first people with a smartwatch, but for this incremental upgrade, I can't really recommend upgrading if you have the first model because the changes are pretty evolutionary. Once the price comes down, I think then it's a total no-brainer. Or if you're in the market for something new, if it's your first smartwatch, this is absolutely a great one to pick up even at the full price of $300. There you have it, guys. There are my thoughts on the brand new Moto 360 for 2015. I was really excited to see that it lived up to my expectations because I was really excited to play with this thing. Let us know in the comments if there's another watch that you'd like me to compare the 360 to, or if there's another watch that you want to make sure that we cover. Definitely let us know down there on the way to the subscription button, which you can click on if you want to get these videos directly to your inbox as they come out. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Be kind to one another, and I'll catch you in the next video. Of course, let me know in the comments if there's another watch that you guys want me to compare this to. We're going to be looking at a handful more as they hit the Oh man, that was a good take too.